My life's biggest question. How can I get my shit together? Our dream Bonnaroo collaboration. Okay, that's a real easy. Oh yeah, it'd be great to collaborate with Herzog on something. That'd be cool. It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I would go to the far reaches of the earth, and he could endanger our whole band's lives. That would be cool. That'd be my dream Bonnaroo collaboration. My name is Honus. I'm in a band called Mr. Heavenly. And I'm also in a band called Man Man. I wish I felt like a rock star. I feel like a mess mostly. Yeah. Breath or two before your troubles, they always find you.
I mean, it's an interesting brand of pop. I guess that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. I think it's pretty straightforward.
These days I feel like a pariah, an albatross and my feathers on fire.
But I guess that shows what I know. This is our pop album. I mean, I thought our last album was our pop album. But this album is definitely our pop album. Bit of a cluster. I still feel like I failed. I'm like I have to get into writing still. Playing music was just supposed to be, refilling the tank at a gas stop. But in the case of my life, someone stole my car, so I'm stuck at the gas stop. Like, it was never my dream to be a musician. I just feel like there's so much more I can do.
I talked in my games essay about how I wouldn't call myself a gamer, but I still have a lot of enthusiasm for video games and for interactive storytelling. As far as music goes, I know even less, and I have no musical talent whatsoever. I've never learned to play any instruments, and this clip from one of our short films is my actual singing voice. Not fully understanding or being able to produce music doesn't keep me from enjoying it though, and what music I've found and connected to, I love immensely. The band that I love above all other bands is called Man Man. In late high school and early college, my favorite band was Kaiser's Orchestra.
Say my name. Say it. I said say it. Don't scream it. Just say it. Scream it. Mean it. That's it, baby. Do it. Ooh, daddy.
They were a Norwegian group who sang story songs about murder and conspiracies in Russian roulette in Norwegian, and their members would play a pump organ while wearing a gas mask or bang an empty barrel on stage. The New York Times described Kaiser's Orchestra as a Norwegian alternative rock sextet whose music was an idiosyncratic amalgam of Scandinavian and Eastern European folk influences filtered through high-energy blues and metal. And said that perhaps the group's sound and theatricality are infectious enough to render the language barrier irrelevant. Jonova Ottesen, the frontman for Kaisers, said, "I sing in Norwegian all the time, and when I perform live in, say, Germany, I know that they don't understand anything I'm singing. I'm doing my job, singing and telling stories. And they're good stories." The fans who understand it totally love it. They're so into it, they tattoo the characters on their bodies. I used to hunt down Kaiser's lyrics in English when I could, and try my best to fully understand what I was listening to. And I still have some of their songs that I probably haven't really heard in years memorized in full, despite not speaking a word of Norwegian. One day out of the blue, my friend sent me a song he thought I would like by a band I had never heard of called Man Man. He sent me a YouTube link to the studio version of the song English Blood, but instead of that, here's a live recording of the same song from 2012 that captures the atmosphere of their live shows pretty well. One night a few years later, I found out last minute about a Man Man show happening a block from where I was, so I decided to go despite only knowing a couple of their songs. The experience was incredible. There was the storytelling, the showmanship, the bravado, but in my native language, in a group I could actually see live, and honestly, it was like 10 times weirder.
If you wanna steal, go and steal what you want.
And more surreal.
Even though I'm flashy, it's all there to around us. If you want to be.
Than any music I had ever heard and enjoyed, and it was that much more exciting for it. It was that same sound and theatricality that I'd always been drawn to that was infectious enough that they became my favorite band pretty quickly. Man Man's founder and frontman is Ryan Kattner, stage name Honus Honus.
When Man Man played there, we played right by the Mediterranean. So the last song, I ran off the stage and jumped into the water.
The only other really enduring member has been Christopher Powell, stage name Pow Pow, who joined the band for the second album. Kattner studied screenwriting in college and started Man Man in his early 20s as a kind of minor side gig and outlet he did not expect to last very long.
He's an unlikely cult hero, almost devoid of any ego about what he does, probably because this was not what he wanted to do. After graduating from the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, his sole mission was to become a screenwriter. Music was merely an unexpected interruption.
He said the band was sort of accidental from the beginning. It was made up of people who had other things going on in their lives, except for myself. That's why there's been a turnover. And I never thought I'd be in a band. It was never an ambition in life. It was an accidental thing that happened, and I feel lucky that I found an outlet. And I'm even luckier that people can get into it.
And then when I got out of college, I was just writing scripts with my plan of moving west.
Right.
And then I was going crazy, so as a side hobby, I was like, oh, I'll buy a keyboard and see if I can write songs.
Right.
And that kind of took over.
There was a piano warehouse down in Queen Village, and it was going under. This was maybe like 15 years ago. They either donating them or they were destroying them with axes.
No!
Yeah, and so I bought the Rhodes without even knowing how to play piano. And then I started teaching myself how to write songs. I thought this would be when I would write one record and then I would just get on with my life. Because I didn't have musical training. I started the band when I was like 23. I felt like that was too late to start a band. And, I just kind of went with it. And, here I am today.
The Kaisers albums that I loved had story songs about murder and betrayal and war and hell. For example, their first album's title track is about someone, presumably the husband of a woman who was murdered, bribing a cop to enact brutal vengeance on her killer. On the surface, some of Man Man's songs have pretty clear-cut narratives the way On Plateau du Dor does. Poor Jackie is about a female serial killer. Hot Tropique is about murderers. Mayan Nights is about the end of the world. And Spooky Juki is about a woman whose life is being destroyed by drug addiction. But most of their songs lack a coherent narrative and are instead a disjointed collage of vibrant, surreal imagery used to convey love and heartache and self-doubt and self-loathing and being attracted to things that are terrible for you. Even the story songs are built to portray something more emotional and something more personal. Maya Nights is about self-destruction and transformation as much as it's about anything else.
There is a landscape, there is a toast, small, wasted, and strange arms.
And Haute Tropique has lines about accepting your own darkness.
Born what you're meant to be. If you're bad, then be bad the best. If you're good, stay away from me.
Poor Jackie's narrator, perhaps a stand-in for Katner, begs Jackie to come kill him, with lines like, "I want to crawl in your autumn mouth and feel the crows pick me apart inside," and like Poor Jackie, a lot of Man Man songs revolve around women. Brianna Elric interviewed Katner for Impose magazine and said, "Throughout it all, though, runs an undercurrent of sadness and disappointment. All of my songs are breakup songs," admits Honus. "I like singing about two types of characters. I like singing about weirdos, and I like singing about women." Something that may be surprising about music with a masculine band name performed in an aggressive manner with a lot of disturbing, violent imagery is that Man Man's take on women typically manifests either in celebrating or empathizing with a woman going through something difficult, often something having to do with being a woman. I always interpreted the song Fangs to be a celebration of a woman who has undergone sexual trauma who rebels against the sexist restrictions placed on her. Or they're about how the characters of his songs, again, perhaps stand-ins for Katner, are drawn to toxic relationships, and since Katner is presumably straight, they're about toxic women. But there's never ever the feeling of like, women are evil, and it's not misogynistic for him to admit his own problems and how they manifest in his relationships. It's always on him or his character's desperation and shame, and how he wishes he could change the parts of himself that are self-destructive. And you don't have to be a presumably straight cis dude at all to relate to songs about toxic relationships and self-destruction. Parvati Angus has done a couple of interviews with Katner for Monster Fresh, and they're all really interesting and worth reading. In one, they had this exchange, where Angus's brain goes exactly where mine went, and here's part of it cut some for length. Angus said, "One of the questions that has kind of stuck with me. Jackie is a character, and you're telling a story about her, and then you have Fangs, which is kind of similar in that you're telling a story about a female, almost anti-hero character that's very compelling. Not necessarily a good person, but you're invested, and I'm kind of curious about that. I've just not really heard anyone else write a song like that." To which Katner said, "Well, women are just more interesting. And there's more than enough people writing. I don't think enough people write great songs about female protagonists. It's a crime. I don't know. It's funny, because I never really thought about it like that. Like, oh, I write a lot of songs about women. But why not? I mean, great, powerful, I don't know, I like girls." They then make fun of women being used as a foil by self-pitying men, and Katner says, "I think it's more interesting to write a strong female character. For me, it's ways of trying to avoid the rock lyric tropes, because most people don't give a fuck about lyrics. But I'm essentially a failed screenwriter, playwright, and I have to get it out somehow." Katner also started out planning to replace himself with a female singer, but that never happened.
In the beginning, like, being on stage and being like a quote-unquote frontman, it's the last thing in the world I wanted to do. I mean, it's... When we started, I was just singing the parts so that we could find a really awesome girl singer to be our person. And then I just got stuck having to absorb that role.
Katner has said that he wanted to make music that made people feel the way he felt when he watched the Jodorowsky film Holy Mountain.
I mean, I guess film is my biggest influence, actually. I mean, I started the band because of a movie called Holy Mountain. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. But it made me want to start a band. It sounded like that movie felt to me. It's kind of a lame answer, but it's the truth.
For his song Born Tight, he wanted, quote, a Bob coming out from behind the couch in Twin Peaks vibe.
Girls just wanna have fun. Be brave.
In his AMA, he said, "I view writing a song/lyrics like composing scenes or shots from the film that I'm ultimately trying to get you to project in your mind." Man Man's music is vivid, extreme storytelling made up of rapid juxtapositions and visceral, often disgusting or disturbing imagery used to portray very real personal trauma and heartache.
Well, there's this movie called Holy Mountain. Like, I'm more influenced by movies than I am by music. I'm more influenced by the movies and feel. I saw that movie and it kind of freaked me out. And I wanted to do something that had the same kind of vibe or feel, or create the same kind of feel of this balance between chaos and prettiness, and leaving out all the middle ground. You know, just being one or the other, the extremes. Because it's just kind of how I tend to be. for better or worse.
One quote of his that I read years ago that really stuck with me was, "It's good to be raw and it's good to be ugly and not sound beautiful," because I think there's a beauty in that. And we're trying to create our own language here. So either you're on board or you're not, and if you're not, then oh well. He also said, "I think maintaining levity in life is important, and I've always been fascinated by the juxtaposition of the beautiful and chaotic. That said, I'm not into jokey, parody music at all, and I get kind of bummed out when lazy listeners categorize music I make as such. There's a lot of different vibes, experiences, moods in life. Why can't they all exist in the same song/album? People are complicated. Why can't songs operate on different levels? I love wrapping a sad tune up in a jaunty, catchy melody. It's way more interesting to me than, here's an emotional song and the music is sad, so you know that I'm sad and you can be sad too. Fuck that noise."
You can have a song which tastes really sweet, but you know, it's cooked with a batter mixed with glass. And I like that imbalance. I like those extremes kind of existed in the same arena, you know?
And he said, "I think it's more interesting when you have conflicting or contrasting elements being put together and seeing what comes out of it. If we wanted someone who makes total sense, I think it's kind of boring." Katner said of himself and Powell that it was fun because neither one of us has any qualms about being corny or cheesy. We just don't really care.
It's pretty much anything goes. I mean, of course, if it's organic, you know, we're not gonna just do something because it's cool or not cool or whatever.
We feel like that at the end of the day when the song is done, we're going to own it, whatever the style is. That's what's been fun about playing with Chris since day one. We don't really care if it's cool sounding or not. We'll make it sound cool. He said that, "I think that most people can detect whether or not a song is bullshit, or if it's coming from a real place. And I think even with our wackiest, craziest stuff, it is coming from a real place."
So you probably won't understand anything I'm saying, but as long as you know that I believe in what I'm saying, I feel like that carries a lot of weight.
It gets a little theatrical, but at the same time, there's a sentimentality that can't be fake. There's a certain genuine aspect to the performance, which people aren't stupid. They can tell if you're faking a feeling.
In a Philadelphia Weekly piece, Brian McManus said of Katner that he talks about Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf and Alejandro Jodorowsky's El Topo with equal artistic reverence, and does so with a straight face. This sincerity, fearlessness, and general lack of pretension are all a very big part of Man Man's appeal to me.
I was coming from a background where I didn't know how to write songs, but I felt like as long as I cared and I believed in what I was doing, that matters more than people who went to school and were trained. Not knowing how to write songs, I felt qualified me to write songs, or at least try.
Head On is probably Man Man's most accessible and upbeat song.
Hold on to your heart. Hold it high above floodwaters.
This one has that more mainstream thing, and when you're writing it, I mean, was it ever that thing where you said, it's time that we have to break through, it's time that we have to become more accessible to somebody, or did you just luck out?
I think I've been trying to do that since our first record.
Yeah?
I've been trying to, you know, I don't think anyone wants to toil in obscurity.
Yeah.
Or maybe you do, I don't know, I didn't want to.
Like, I got an excited phone call from someone once because it was playing over the speaker at a Walmart in rural Georgia, and Katner's had similar experiences.
You know, I get text messages from friends, and then just kids posting on my Facebook or Twitter. You know, someone sent a video the other day. Actually, we've gotten like 4 videos of people all around the country like hearing it in Walmarts.
Cool.
Which blows my mind because it's definitely not for sale in Walmart. You know?
But even then, its name is based on a dark German-Turkish drama film whose English title and original German title, Gegen die Wand, meaning roughly against the wall, refer in part to a scene where a suicidal character drives a car into a wall and almost dies.
It's not the most uplifting movie, but it's kind of, I felt like it was an apt title. But in classic Man Man fashion, I should have just named the song Hold On to Your Heart. It would have been an easier internet search. But, you know, why do anything easy, right? Why have a name that's hard to say to people? Oh, y'all are Madman?
Oh, Madman.
Oh, Madman.
Madman.
Oh, Man Band.
Man Band?
And our single's Head On. I don't ever actually say that in the song.
My interpretation of the song is that it's about persevering through mental illness and exhaustion and self-doubt and suicidal ideation, and Honus has repeatedly said he wrote it for himself, as a reminder as much as he wrote it for anyone else.
Well, Head On, in a lot of ways, I was writing to myself just about just keep doing it even though it feels like it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
The reality is we're a band that's been under the radar for a long time, you know? We're definitely a word-of-mouth band. And it's freeing in a lot of ways, but it's also really frustrating.
And so I'd say a part of that song was just kind of writing it to myself, to just don't get super bitter or jaded, even though everything in your being is going in that direction. You know, it's one of those tunes that came out of the ether, and it turned out really beautiful. And I sure as hell had to fight myself to not make it too dark and to make it relatively positive.
I've gotten the impression that some people saw this song and the album it's on Oni Pond, as Man Man selling out. And if an album that has a song based on an obscure depressing German Turkish drama film and a song called N-Boss about Wolf Blitzer pounding vodka and eating babies is selling out, then okay, whatever.
Hang on, did Wolf Blitzer just drink vodka and eat the baby? I thought it'd be more interesting to reimagine the wolf being Wolf Blitzer, sneaking into houses and devouring children, just picturing Wolf's calm face, kind eyes, smiling gray beard, shooting pool in a barrio bar with the baby dancing in his belly while dreaming of a young Glenn Danzig and drinking lemon-flavored vodka still gets to me. Glenn Danzig of the band Danzig, also the Misfits. Now,
the physicality of a good concert is so different from the other forms of live performance I've experienced. I don't mosh or crowd surf or anything like that, but I do enjoy shows that are physically demanding, and I want to be front and center, right up on the stage, like I want to be completely enveloped. Here's a video I found on YouTube of a Gogol Bordello show my friend and I went to as an example. I was so upset I couldn't see Kaiser's Orchestra when they came to the US before they disbanded because they were known for their live shows. I saw Man Man 2 more times after the show that made me become obsessed with them, and each show only got better. I took one of my favorite photos I've ever taken at a show of theirs in 2015 that ended up being my favorite concert I've ever been to.
We all have to rely on each other for songs to come across live, all the transitions and changes. It seems chaotic, but you know, there's a math to the chaos we have on stage. If we could just go up there and just bang shit and act crazy, if that's all it took, then I should have just done that years ago.
During meticulously rehearsed live shows, the band members don't verbally interact or leave much room between songs. There's no jokey banter. There's just song after song with a powerful momentum building, and a lot of very physical performance and crowd interaction. The result is incredible.
We're definitely a kind of band that feeds off of an audience, so if an audience gives us energy, then we can give it back to them. I mean, we'll give it regardless, but it's just great when people who are watching us just kind of drop their guard and just go with it, you know?
In college video production classes and in college drawing classes I took, there was a rigidity and at least somewhat of a focus on efficiency and realism over creativity and experimentation. In editing especially, I was taught to be invisible and to focus on speed and efficiency above all else. And I don't mind being invisible. I love editing, and I don't think anyone goes into editing for fame or recognition, and of course technical knowledge is important in filmmaking. But a lot of my biggest influences as an editor came from the internet, like from YouTube poops and Vines, or from avant-garde TV like Adult Swim's output, where being funny or entertaining is way more important than seamless, invisible, technical rigidity and perfection. Experimental art is often seen as pretentious and inaccessible, but I think that's only because people aren't taught the beauty and the freedom of experimentation.
So is that where the idea of you being an experimental musician came from, that you weren't able to play your instrument to begin with?
I think so. I still can't play it. I use a lot of chords, which I didn't even know the name of until a handful of years ago.
So you found those all yourself?
Yeah, I was just like, when I was writing songs, I had no knowledge of time signatures and strange patterns. So I would just write things that felt right and that I could somehow sing over.
Kattner said that, the right way is you persevere and you figure out your way of doing things, and that becomes the right way.
So when I was writing songs, like, well, you know, who cares if these two parts don't necessarily make sense? Let me try to connect it somehow. It's not that you set out to be weird or be different or strange. It's just, you just gotta do it how it feels right to you.
Man Man was a great reminder for me that sometimes the joy of expression trumps established technical roles, and that people with no interest in formal training or what's considered correct or normal can make amazing art. There are some stories that Kattner brings up again and again in interviews, like about him sleeping in a tour van in his underwear with a werewolf mask and a baseball bat in case anyone tried to break in. But a story that always stuck out to me, and one that I'm glad I was able to find again for this video, is this.
We were playing the song called Van Helsing Boombox, and it's off our second record. It's a really sad song that I wrote in a very pleasant time in my life. And, you know, I'm playing the song, and it's a strange thing with that song for years, and this sounds corny, but I would throw up during that song.
Really?
Or I'd get sick just because, like, what that song meant to me when I wrote it. And it means, you know, when I wrote it is the opposite effect that it has on people, I think, which is great. It's great when you can create something that means something for someone else. I feel like that's the ultimate win-win. You know, something personal, but you know, it can be personal for someone else.
Yeah. That's great.
But anyway, I was playing the song, and someone came up behind and like squeezed me, like hugged me from behind while I'm playing the song, and then ran off the stage. And then afterwards, in the audience, he apologized for interrupting the song, but he said he had to tell me how he felt at that moment, how that song made him feel, because it helped him get over his friend dying of cancer.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's really intense.
I mean, that's as a
and that's a great feeling, you know.
Yeah.
Like getting choked up thinking about it.
I've talked a lot about what draws me to certain artists and certain art in my other videos. I place a lot of value on sincerity and unrestrained creativity and the ability to pull off controlled chaos. In addition, works that have a juxtaposition of funny and macabre elements resonate with me, because I have a dark sense of humor born out of some dark experiences. Katner said of the Man Man album Life Fantastic that, "The events that happened in my life are things that happen to everybody, but it was comedic in a way because it was so much stuff. It got very surreal." I think it was getting in touch with that and why I started to play music to begin with, to not get swallowed up by all this stuff. I would rather watch or read or listen to something that acknowledges the ugly in the world than anything saccharine, and it being acknowledged with that kind of humor is even better. Man Man then aligns perfectly with everything I love in art, with the film influence and illusions and playing with form born of lack of training and fearless experimentation as a bonus. I've also talked before about how one of the highest functions of art is its ability to help downtrodden people feel less alienated. I love that Man Man is something I can listen to and explore dark and bizarre ideas with without feeling alienated as a woman. It sometimes pushes it a little far. The song Dark Arts has the lines, "You paint portraits of pretty babies crying out of short bus eyes for you." And there are lines in other songs about savages and Indians scalping as metaphor and the word Chinaman and whatever, but you have to give Katner the benefit of the doubt. I feel like a lot of these are subversions and recontextualizations of 50s American language and pulp imagery the same way he uses doo-wop style music for a lot of his songs. In fact, Dark Arts is one of my favorite songs of his and one of my favorite songs ever. It's about that difficult time in Katner's life Life Fantastic came from, including explicit references to an actual Ambien-fueled motorcycle accident. Intermixed with lines like, "You gravitate towards lovers named after days you were weak in hurricanes," and "I pour myself a cup of mummy brown, and I carve a coffin out of tramp art that I found." And it's more like a night terror or a panic attack caught on tape than anything else I've ever seen or heard. Ian Cohen, in his review of Life Fantastic, described it at the time as their most tasteful and well-produced record to date, but with the darkest, most frightening lyrics the band has written. It's also the album I'd recommend starting out with if you haven't heard them before. Like Kaiser's Orchestra, Katner's fans are enthusiastic and obsessive and get tattoos based on his music.
But as frustrating as songwriting may be, Katner's lyrics touch people deeply, so much so that fans have made their emotional connection tangible and permanent through tattoos.
It's really wild, and I experienced this on this last year of touring, and I'd never had that feeling before of, I'm like in a cult band. It's awesome though, I'm not complaining at all. But it's a weird feeling to actually think that way while you're playing music on stage.
He comes off as very humble about all of it in general, though, and it seems like he has trouble processing and accepting the impact his work has had on people.
I think fortunately I'm too inside my own head to really appreciate it.
I'm flattered because I never thought I'd be in a band. I never thought I would do something that people would like listen to my music and like that get tattoos. I mean, that stuff still blows me away. I wish that I could process that in a different way that would make everything easier, but I think the fact that my head is such a mess is probably beneficial to the music.
And that must be a great affirmation as you as like an artist. That
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I wish I wasn't in my head so much, then I can appreciate things like that more. Like, I mean, I do appreciate it, but it doesn't register as like, wow, I'm awesome, you know? Usually I'm like, man, I'm such a fuck up.
I wish you could really understand how wonderful his work is. His songs, including Dark Arts and Van Helsing Boombox, have helped me through difficult times in my personal life. The first time I was at a show and I heard them start the intro to Van Helsing Boombox, a song I thought they didn't play live anymore, I almost started crying. And for a long time I considered getting a head-on tattoo. This video of Katner riding the back of a truck playing head-on has cheered me up on more bad days than I can count.
Oh, that is terrifying. This is terrifying. This is fucking terrifying, man. Whoa!
And this recording of Van Helsing Boombox is one of the most achingly beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen or heard.
Time will tell if I'll allow the scenery around to eat me alive. I wanna sleep for weeks like a dog at her feet, even though I know it won't work out in the long run. When anything that's anything becomes nothing, that's everything, and nothing is the only thing you ever seem to have.
By the time I got into Man Man, I wasn't as timid or full of self-doubt as I used to be. By then I was a pretty happy person, even if I didn't grow up very happy. But it was still really cool to find something that resonated so closely with my own experiences and sensibilities in a viciously unique way, and to learn something about art and expression. Or at least have my ideas about art and expression that had been distorted by trying to conform to some arbitrary standard reinforced in a big way.
We just got to stay the course and hope that maybe people catch on to what we're doing.
Yeah.
And just, you know, I think clarity of vision is really important. And I don't doubt that we have it. I got totally lucky that I found this means to express all this garbage that's in my head and just get it out there. And, you know, music just happened to be what it was at the time, and then just kind of became all-consuming. And that's why I'm on a rooftop right now under a piss yellow moon. Which I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know.
Man Man is definitely something special, and I thought it would be appropriate for me, as someone who can't sing and who knows nothing about music, to make a video about how much I love it. Thanks for watching! If you want to learn more about film culture and history, check out my So You Want to Be a Film Nerd web series. I also have in-depth video essays on other media, along with short comedy and horror films on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider donating to my Patreon, so I can keep making video essays like this one. Also, by the way, if you look closely, I'm actually wearing my Man Man tank top in my Patreon video from a couple years ago. Anyway, thanks!
And forever in song, as a vodka-swilling baby eater, he shall be remembered.
If you gotta punch your dad in the face, I say think about it, now do it!